The Warhammer! Let's go! Forge Gang! Alright. So, I put down, first of all, I reset the resolution down to 260p, I believe. It's 700p something. So, I had to lower the resolution and the bitrate bandwidth thing or whatever a bit, because it's kind of ruining my bandwidth. So what happened was, my phone here, the app that I was using, it got deleted for some reason. I don't know what happened, but it got wiped out. So I had to reinstall the app. I had to delete the cache on the app thing in the settings, and then I had to download the app again, and then I had to lower the resolution. But that's why, like, when I was doing the Chaosu, Tenshin, Han, Yamcha, Bulma, Master Roshi stuff, it kind of blinked out. Alright, so anyways, let's get into the death of every Red Ribbon Army character. I'm going to cover the final minor characters of the original series, and then I'll go on to the Bardock special. But yeah, the Red Ribbon Army were basically a mercenary terrorist group in Dragon Ball, early in Dragon Ball, and Toriyama probably took a lot of inspiration of that from G.I. Joe, because in the 1980s, there was a television series called G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, and it was about G.I. Joe and kind of a lot of Vietnam War tropes and stuff. In the early 80s, there was a lot of shows like Rambo and so on and so forth that talked about the Vietnam War. Japan and Dragon Ball were no exception to this matter. The Red Ribbon Army arc is actually one of the most interesting arcs in the entire series, and it is very underlooked at and understudied, but it's one of the very first adventures that Goku ever has searching for the Dragon Balls. He goes in search for the 4-star ball of his grandpa. It's right after the first ever World Martial Arts Tournament. So he's still in the prime of his training. And it is probably the first major tour of the Earth that any major Dragon Ball characters do, other than if you want to like count Dr. Slump, where there's some travel and world exploration or world building in Dr. Slump. But other than that, the Red Ribbon Army was quite a breakthrough. There was also a lot of tough fighting. Kind of the quirkiness and the goofiness of Dragon Ball kind of faded out and got replaced with much more serious martial arts tropes and stuff, and kung fu and fighting. So basically, yeah, so the Red Ribbon Army soldiers, like, a lot of them die at various different times. Quite a few Red Ribbon Army soldiers were slain by the Goyamao, or by the Ox King, when they attacked his village or whatever, high up in the mountains. There was also an instance of Red Ribbon Army soldiers being killed by the Pilaf gang when they went through the quicksand or whatever. But yeah, Goku apparently kills a couple of Red Ribbon Army soldiers when they're trying to get a Dragon Ball or something. I don't remember that scene very well. Colonial Silver, though, is not killed. He actually stays alive, and we don't really know much about what happened to Colonial Silver, but he's one of the few villains in Dragon Ball that is not killed. Now, with Muscle Tower, I tend to think that Goku just basically knocked out most of those Red Ribbon Army soldiers. He probably did kill a few, but he mostly just kind of knocked them down and stuff. When Artificial Human 8 destroyed Muscle Tower, I would imagine that that's when pretty much all the Red Ribbon Army soldiers there died, unless they escaped or whatever. Now, Major Metallatron was an android or something like that, and Goku basically tore up his arms and stuff, and I think that caused the battery in 8's body to leak, and he ran out of battery fuel and shut down. But, it's a robot, so probably wouldn't count as a death since it's not really a living thing as such. The androids later in Z are different in that they actually do have a life force or whatever, even though they're androids. The androids in Dragon Ball, besides Android 8, are not really human. They just look human, but they're just basically built-up robots and such. Ninja Major Sergeant Murasaki, we actually don't know if he dies. Murasaki is actually a ninja or whatever, and there's the 5 Murasaki brothers. Now, I need to explain kind of a mistake. Now, Ten Shinhan, later in Z and the 23rd Budokai, he uses the Triform technique, which is that he divides his body up and stuff. That's not what you see with Ninja Murasaki. Staff Major Sergeant Murasaki he has 4 twin brothers that look exactly like him, and from the get-go, they're all just doing different stuff. I tend to think that Goku could have knocked them out. He probably killed them or whatever, but he only killed 4 of the 5 Murasaki clan, ninja clan. And then when Ader destroyed Muscle Tower, they were killed in that event. In the case of Booyan, Goku punched a hole in Muscle Tower, and the Arctic blizzard or whatever, the cold Arctic blizzard air poured in and froze Booyan up, and then Goku just one-shot it and killed that monster. General White was kicked out of Muscle Tower by artificial human number 8 or whatever, and he basically died because of a tremendous being basically just punched or whatever right through the brick wall of Muscle Tower, and he basically was he was punched so hard that he was shot or hurled through an entire valley, and he died somewhere not far from Muscle Tower. And then I think most of the Red Ribbon Army soldiers, either they fled, and probably that's what they did. They didn't really die, they just kind of fled before Muscle Tower was destroyed, but you never know. Major Sergeant Murasaki, it's really hard to know what happened to him. He could have died, but then he could have stayed alive. Artificial Human 8's bomb implant was thrown on Major Sergeant Murasaki, but the scene of the episode closed out, so we don't know if he's alive or dead. So I'll skip that. A couple of Red Ribbon Army sailors or Navy staff were executed by General Blue at different points. And then the mutant Roshi, Launch, and Turtle defeated and took out all of Captain Dark and his battalion men or whatever. They're kind of like the Navy SEALs of the Red Ribbon Army. The mutant Roshi and Launch probably did kill most of those soldiers. They were either one-shotted martial arts by the mutant Roshi, or they were shot to death by Launch and her Yutzi or whatever, and then a lot of them escaped. And then a lot of Red Ribbon naval servicemen were killed in one of those traps in the pirate dungeon thing or whatever. I forgot, but basically they were all killed except General Blue. General Blue then shot in the back of the head one of the last of his underlings or soldiers or whatever. And then there was an event where Upa killed most of Captain Yellow's henchmen, And then Goku killed Captain Yellow by kicking him off of the plane. So that's how he died. And then Goku assaulted the Red Ribbon Army Citadel itself. And it does say on the Dragon Ball Wiki that Goku did kill most of the entire Red Ribbon Army. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know, but one of the Red Ribbon Army ground troops was the son of Dr. Gero, and Goku actually killed his son, and Android 16 was modeled on the son of Dr. Gero, who was killed during that assault. But anyways, apparently Goku killed the majority of the Red Ribbon Army, but then a lot of them fled and escaped. And then Commander Red was shot directly in the head by Staff Officer or Adjutant Black. So Adjutant Black shot Commander Red in the head, and then Commander Black or Adjutant Black was destroyed when Goku basically head-butted the, the mech suit that he was using. So Commander Black had this giant mech suit. Goku head-butted through it, it blew up, and yeah, he died. And so that's pretty much it with the original Red Ribbon Army. But yeah, now later in Z, you have the androids that come along, but I'm going to do them at a later portion, so that's going to be it now.